Another day, another lesson by UPSC and more. The Directive Principles of State Policy, DPSP, are a set of guidelines given to the Government of India to ensure that the country's governance is in line with the principles of justice, social, economic and political. These guidelines, although not legally enforceable, serve as a moral obligation for the government to strive towards achieving them. The DPSP has played a significant role in shaping the governance of India since its inception in the Indian Constitution in 1950. In this essay, we will discuss the importance of the DPSP and their role in the governance of India from the UPSC exam perspective. 1. Introduction. A. Define DPSP and their significance in Indian Constitution. B. Briefly explain the non-justiciable nature of DPSP. 2. Historical context of DPSP. A. Discuss the need for DPSP in the Indian Constitution. B. The influence of similar provisions in other constitutions. C. The Constituent Assembly's debates on DPSP. 3. Importance of DPSP. A. Promoting social justice and equality. B. Protection of weaker sections of society. C. Promotion of economic growth and development. D. Promotion of international peace and security. 4. Role of DPSP in governance of India. A. Providing a framework for policymaking. B. Shaping legislative and administrative action. C. Judicial interpretation and implementation of DPSP. 5. Challenges in implementation of DPSP. A. Conflicts with fundamental rights. B. Financial and resource constraints. C. Political will and bureaucratic capacity. 6. Conclusion. A. Recapitulate the significance of DPSP in India's governance. B. Suggest ways to overcome challenges in implementing DPSP. 1. Introduction. The Directive Principles of State Policy, DPSP, are a set of guidelines contained in Part 4 of the Indian Constitution. These principles embody the goals and aspirations of the Indian people and provide a framework for the government to work towards the attainment of these goals. Although the DPSP are not legally enforceable, they serve as a moral obligation for the government to strive towards achieving them. The DPSP are an essential component of the Indian Constitution as they reflect the values and principles on which the Constitution is based. 2. Historical context of DPSP. The DPSP were included in the Indian Constitution to address the social and economic inequalities prevalent in Indian society. The Indian Constitution was framed after a long struggle for independence from British rule, and the leaders of the freedom movement were keen to ensure that the newly independent India would be a just and equitable society. The Indian Constitution drew inspiration from various sources, including the constitutions of other countries. The DPSP were influenced by similar provisions in the Irish Constitution and the Weimar Constitution of Germany. The Constituent Assembly of India debated the inclusion of the DPSP at length. Many members of the Assembly argued that the DPSP were necessary to ensure that the government would work towards the social and economic upliftment of the people. However, some members were skeptical about the inclusion of the DPSP, arguing that they would be difficult to implement in practice. Eventually, the DPSP were included in the Indian Constitution as a means of guiding the government in its policymaking. 3. Importance of DPSP. The DPSP are essential for the governance of India as they reflect the aspirations of the Indian people. The DPSP are a critical component of the Indian Constitution and serve as a guide for the government in its policymaking. Some of the significant aspects of the DPSP are discussed below. A. Promoting social justice and equality. The DPSP include provisions for the promotion of social justice and equality. These principles are essential for the development of a just and equitable society. The DPSP provide for the elimination of discrimination based on religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. They also provide for the promotion of the welfare of women and children and the protection of their rights. The DPSP also call for the promotion of the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of society. These principles are essential for creating a society that is free from discrimination and where every individual has equal opportunities. B. Protection of weaker sections of society. The DPSP contain provisions for the protection of the weaker sections of society. These include provisions for the protection of the rights of farmers, workers, and tribal communities. The DPSP also provide for the protection of the rights of minorities, including religious and linguistic minorities. The protection of the rights of the weaker sections of society is essential for creating a just and equitable society where no one is left behind. C. Promotion of economic growth and development. The DPSP also contain provisions for the promotion of economic growth and development. These include provisions for the promotion of agriculture, industrialization, and trade. The DPSP also call for the equitable distribution of resources and the promotion of a welfare state. The promotion of economic growth and development is essential for creating a prosperous society where every individual has access to basic necessities and opportunities for advancement. D. Promotion of international peace and security. The DPSP also contain provisions for the promotion of international peace and security. These include provisions for the promotion of friendly relations with other countries and the settlement of international disputes through peaceful means. The promotion of international peace and security is essential for creating a peaceful and stable world order. 4. Role of DPSP in governance of India. The DPSP play a crucial role in the governance of India. The DPSP provide a framework for policymaking, shape legislative and administrative action, and are interpreted and implemented by the judiciary. A. Providing a framework for policymaking. The DPSP provide a framework for policymaking in India. The government is obligated to take into account the DPSP while formulating policies. The DPSP serve as a guide for the government in its efforts to promote social justice, economic growth, and international peace and security. B. Shaping legislative and administrative action. The DPSP also shape legislative and administrative action in India. The DPSP are often referred to while drafting legislation and administrative policies. The DPSP influence the direction and scope of legislative and administrative action, ensuring that they are in line with the principles enshrined in the Constitution. C. Judicial interpretation and implementation of DPSP. Although the DPSP are not legally enforceable, the judiciary has an essential role to play in their interpretation and implementation. The judiciary has interpreted the DPSP in several landmark cases, and its decisions have had a significant impact on policymaking in India. The judiciary has also used the DPSP as a yardstick to determine the constitutional validity of legislation. 5. Challenges in implementation of DPSP. The implementation of the DPSP faces several challenges. These challenges include conflicts with fundamental rights, financial and resource constraints, and political will and bureaucratic capacity. A. Conflicts with fundamental rights. The DPSP often conflict with fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution. The conflict between the DPSP and fundamental rights creates a challenge for their implementation. The judiciary has to balance the conflicting provisions while interpreting and implementing the Constitution. B. Financial and resource constraints. The implementation of the DPSP requires significant financial and resource allocation. The government often faces resource constraints in implementing the DPSP, making it difficult to achieve the goals and aspirations enshrined in the Constitution. C. Political will and bureaucratic capacity. The implementation of the DPSP also requires political will and bureaucratic capacity. The government needs to have the political will to implement the DPSP and the bureaucratic capacity to ensure that the policies are effectively implemented. The directive principles of state policy are a crucial component of the Indian Constitution. Here are some tips to keep in mind while writing an answer on the directive principles of state policy for the UPSC exam. A. Understand the key concepts. It is essential to understand the key concepts related to the DPSP, including their objectives, principles, and provisions. Make sure you are familiar with the salient features of the DPSP and their significance in the Indian Constitution. B. Structure your answer. A well-structured answer is critical for scoring high marks in the UPSC exam. Start with an introduction that provides an overview of the DPSP and their importance in the governance of India. Then, move on to the salient features of the DPSP and their objectives. Next, discuss the role of the DPSP in the governance of India and the challenges in their implementation. End with a conclusion that summarizes your key arguments. C. Use examples. Examples are essential for demonstrating your understanding of the DPSP and their relevance in the governance of India. Use examples from recent events or historical cases to illustrate your arguments and support your claims. D. Be concise. The UPSC exam requires you to be concise and to the point. Stick to the key arguments and support them with relevant examples. Aspirants appearing for the UPSC exam must have a thorough understanding of the DPSP and their significance in the governance of India to score well in the exam.